All right, got another one here. Just build more houses, but how money works. How money works makes great videos. Go check them out. Definitely, I'll have a link in the description for every video. So, make sure you guys support them.
The solution to the housing crisis seems so simple.
Building houses.
Home construction.
Housing construction.
Build more housing.
Build new housing that people will welcome.
We aren't building enough homes.
All want to build more homes.
Building more goddamn houses!
Yeah, I feel like that's how we would fix this issue, honestly, is just build more houses. But we do have, at least in America, there's a large portion of the houses that are just unused, and we don't have any plan for it all. So we could put those to some kind of use. I don't know why they're unused specifically. Maybe there needs to be some kind of incentive for people to use them, but or the prices are too high, but we should fix it.
But yeah, that's right. Just build more houses. Well, we've been trying. The number of houses in America has never been higher, and even on a per capita basis, we are doing well by historical standards. What's more is that if you looked around most big cities in the country, you would be forgiven for thinking that we are in the middle of a development boom, because we kind of are. The problem is that these new homes are almost entirely made up of high-end luxury apartments or McMansions that are out of the price range of people who don't already own real estate.
It's really an issue. Currently I don't have a job. I'm looking for a job, but even at the pay range that I'm looking at between $17 and $25 an hour or something like that, just because I need a job, and at that pay, I couldn't really afford anything. Even I own my car outright, all I have to do is pay the insurance on it. I don't have a car note or anything like that. I don't have a ton of overhead, I'm not in any kind of debt, and I still wouldn't be able to afford a house payment for anything above like $150K. And good luck finding a house for $150K.
Even those who have benefited from increased home prices can't keep up with these new developments, which is why hundreds of thousands of these properties are now sitting empty across the country. So then why don't we just build what everybody says they want? Affordable, medium-sized, medium-density housing. Well, the good news is that there are dozens.
Yeah, why don't we? Why don't we just build what everybody wants and can afford? Why not?
Dozens of companies that are raising hundreds of millions of dollars to fill this potential gap in the market. The bad news is that they are almost certainly going to fail, and that's if running an honest business was their actual priority in the first place.
Getting harder and harder to sell a home with persistent high prices, high mortgage rates,
Some of which remains hidden until years later, when most home warranties expire.
This is really a great community to live in. It's just not an investment right now.
I'd never buy a condo. Condos are a scam in my mind. The amounts or the way that they can increase your overhead just on a whim because the building itself needs something and they're just going to chip you into that, I'm out. I never will buy a condo.
The biggest issue is housing affordability.
They're building thousands of homes within this factory.
Homes built on a production line have been lauded as a cheap and fast solution to Australia's need for housing for decades.
home construction supplies across the country increased by 47% since 2016.
Okay, so the price to construct a home has increased a lot, and there are a lot of reasons why this is happening. But most of those have been focused on recent changes that have occurred since COVID, and we will get to those. But a longer-term issue is that we just kind of suck at building houses. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, construction, and in particular residential construction, is the only major industry in the country that has not become more productive since 1987 when they started collecting.
Since 1987, they haven't been more productive. That's crazy.
This data. Productivity measures how much output we get for every hour of work that we do. For example, in the motor vehicle industry, new technology and better manufacturing processes means we are making 3 times as much value in automobiles for every man-hour of work as we were back in 1987. Admittedly, this can sometimes be a little confusing, because cars have become more expensive, so this doesn't directly mean we are making 3 times as many cars directly. but we are making more cars that are more complex and more valued in the market. In the commercial equipment industry, we are now almost 30 times as productive as we were back in 1987. This shouldn't be that surprising. It's the basis of our GDP, which is almost 6 times higher than it was back in the mid-1980s. But over that same time, construction has actually become less productive. To oversimplify, we are only getting 80% as much house for every man-hour spent on construction, even though in almost every other sector of the economy, we are much more productive. This drop was almost so—
Did they just say we're actually 20% less productive since 1987? Because that's insane. That is absolutely insane.
Unbelievable that the Fed commissioned an investigation into the sector to find out if they were messing up the data somehow. The report tried to make the argument that maybe new home construction was just of a significantly higher quality, which is why it was taking longer. And well, this probably isn't surprising to anybody who has toured a newly built home recently, but there was no evidence that building standards have measurably improved.
A 30-year mortgage at Michael's age essentially means that he's buying a coffin. If I were buying my coffin, I would get one with thicker walls, so you couldn't hear the other dead people.
After looking into almost every possible issue with their data, the conclusion was that, nope, the construction industry really had gone backwards, which begs the question, why? Well, there are a few reasons. The first might come as a shock to you if you have watched this channel for a while. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. It's private equity.
Yeah.
Trade businesses like roofers, plumbers, carpenters, and general builders have been some of the most popular acquisition targets for private equity investors over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, they see it as an industry that's not going anywhere anytime soon, so it's a safe investment. And they can, inshitify whatever the hell they want. So they're going to inshitify our houses next.
The way this typically works is that a large PE firm will target a regional market and slowly buy up all of the electrician businesses in a given area. Once they have an array of these companies, they will centralize sales, bookings, administration, and other overhead to theoretically save on costs and make these businesses more competitive in the marketplace. Now, if that's where the business strategy stopped, it honestly wouldn't be that bad. Business owners have a way to sell their business to fund a retirement, and lower operating costs could, in theory, be passed along to consumers. But of course, in reality, it rarely works like this. To acquire these businesses, PE—
That's why you need competition in the market. If there's no competition in the market, then you're not going to have lower prices. That's just the way it works. If people don't have to compete against each other, there's no reason for them to lower the prices. They're only incentivized to raise the prices, actually. I mean, if they have a monopoly, why not? That's the only way that you're going to be able to make more money if you already have all of the customers in the area, The only thing that you can do is raise money to be able to make your investors happy.
Firms borrow a lot of money so they don't have to put in too much of their own money. That debt needs to be repaid, so realistically, what they actually end up doing is replacing the cost of hiring lots of independent local staff with the cost of paying back lots of debt, leaving little room for actual cost savings. And that's assuming they wanted to give you a good deal in the first place. It can be really hard to tell when a business has been acquired because on the surface, they usually keep their old branding. This means it's possible that if you do the responsible thing and get 3 quotes from 3 different plumbing companies to work on building your new home, you might actually be talking to the same business 3 times over. And they don't exactly have much incentive to compete on price against themselves. To put this into perspective, Goldman Sachs is technically now the largest HVAC company in America. The impact of
That's screwed up. That is so screwed up.
Local micro-monopolies was something that the FTC was starting to pay attention to. However, officially, they are no longer looking into this problem. This explains part of the reason why housing has become more expensive, but theoretically, the free market should slowly undermine these profiteering businesses, right? Well, even with all of these tactics, the industry is struggling financially because of the productivity problem. And according to the data, billions of dollars worth of outside investment has only made it worse. But don't worry, the tech bros have a solution. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why we suck at building houses and why investors can't seem to find a solution to that problem.
I have no idea how the tech bros are going to have a solution to this problem. I mean, they shouldn't be involved in my mind unless they're 3D printing me a new house. That's the only way that I need a tech bros advice on how to build a freaking house, honestly.
So far. This video was made possible by Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform designed to handle everything. CRM, sales, inventory, accounting, manufacturing, project management, you name it. And the best part? It's all connected, customizable, and easy to use.
Oh.
We've been especially impressed with the website builder. You can launch a sleek, professional site in just a few clicks, with unlimited hosting, free support, and a custom domain for a full year. But that's just one piece. Odoo also gives you real-time inventory tracking, automated invoicing with AI-powered data capture, and predictive lead scoring to help your team focus on what really matters. We've recently moved our How Money Works library over to Odoo, and it's been a game changer. Everything runs faster, it's easier to manage and explore, and we finally have the flexibility to scale it the way we've always wanted. And yes, there's more coming. We're building something brand new on Odoo that's set to go live next month. We can't wait to show you. Whether you're building a business from scratch or upgrading what you already have, check out Odoo. Use the link in the description to try any app for free for 15 days. No credit card needed. Okay, so there are two main reasons why American productivity has grown so much in most other industries. The first reason, as you could probably guess, is technological improvements. The example from earlier, car manufacturing looks very different today than it did 40 years ago thanks to a lot of automation.
Yeah, I mean, car manufacturing now is just mostly robots, and then, some people throwing some bolts on to finish the product.
Other industries like tech have developed even further. According to company financials, Apple makes $2.4 million in revenue per employee. That's because in new roles like tech development, a few man-hours of work on a new feature can be leveraged over billions of devices within their ecosystem, potentially making hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Going all in on technology has had its problems, but it has made our economy look really good, at least on paper.
Yeah, on paper. We're not in a bubble at all, don't worry.
The second reason American productivity has improved in most industries is not really because we have become more productive at our jobs, but because we have taken the least productive jobs and outsourced them overseas. Business majors and economists call this the service pyramid. The people at the bottom, in the primary sector, harvest the resources in mines and on farms. The people in the middle, the secondary sector, turn those resources into products, and the people at the top, in the tertiary sector, coordinate everybody else. Over the last 50 years or so, we have been moving the bottom of the pyramid to wherever has the most resources to harvest, and the middle of the pyramid to whoever has the largest and cheapest workforce.
Yep.
That left just the creamy jobs up here at the top for us Americans, which are theoretically the most valuable. Someone working on a production line making Labubus can only really generate so much revenue in an hour no matter how good they are at their job or what kind of machinery they are using. Someone running a marketing campaign for all that glorious consumer slop can make a lot more. It's a cool trick that definitely didn't have any unintended consequences like gutting entire industrial regions that used to be the middle of the pyramid. But we couldn't really do the same thing with construction. A residential construction site today looks roughly the same as a residential construction site from the 1980s. Builders use slightly more modern tools and materials, but the change hasn't been nearly as drastic as it has been in factories and offices. And because a house...
I mean, they do have some technology that's creeping in. I know that they have AI excavators and some other artificial intelligence equipment that is like coming into construction, as well as some other things, but for the most part it does look the exact same as it did before. I mean, the job hasn't really changed that much aside for like a few tool upgrades,
is built where it stands. We haven't been able to outsource these jobs either, although to be honest we kind of have. We will need to talk about that later.
To be honest, we kind of have, and then we locked down immigration. I guess that's next, huh?
But before that, we need to look at how the venture capitalists are planning to change this broken system. If you've been paying any attention to the construction industry, or you follow any real estate influencers, you've probably seen a lot of new companies raising billions of dollars to build homes in factories. The idea actually makes a lot of sense. If homes are mass-produced in a controlled environment like a factory floor, then we could use the same kind of automation techniques that made things like the car industry more productive while residential construction remained stagnant. Mass-produced homes could be designed once and then copied like any other mass-produced product to reduce unit costs instead of the current standard practice where almost every home is a one-off custom design. Building within a controlled environment like a covered factory floor also means that quality control could be more carefully monitored and delays due to inclement weather wouldn't be a factor in construction times. For the companies themselves, the business opportunity is even bigger than that though. If homes become mass-produced from broadly recognized companies, there is an opportunity to make a lot of money from branding correctly. Your home probably doesn't have the builder's badge on it like your car does, but factory-produced home models that are recognizable could charge a premium over regular homes if they are branded correctly. So it's a promising business opportunity for all parties, if it works. The problem is, it hasn't worked. Several different companies have collectively raised...
Yeah, I mean, there are some options out there. We do have like sections of houses that get built in factories and then, put together on site, and that's pretty normal at this point, I feel like. And then, the whole Amazon house thing, there's a whole Amazon house. Like, I think you can still buy them on Amazon. It's like 20K, 30K, something like that. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not gonna look, but it's yeah, people are working on it. That's for sure. And if they can do it in a factory like that, it'll bring the cost down quite a bit. If for something normal sized, they just have to be able to ramp up production to a point where it brings the cost down that a normal person can actually be able to afford it.
Billions of dollars to bring these homes to market, and they have done it using a variety of questionable financial strategies. Katerra, which promised to be an end-to-end factory homebuilder, raised $2 billion from SoftBank, and it was once dubbed the WeWork of construction. And I guess they were right, because it collapsed and filed for Chapter 11 in 2021. BUiLd raised hundreds of millions of dollars at a $1 billion valuation from Silicon Valley investors before it was wound down in 2023. Connect Homes, Mighty Buildings, Blue Homes, Rad Urban, Factory OS, Guerdon, and Integra all followed the same playbook. Lots of investor hype with big fundraising rounds before realizing that building a house in a factory is really hard and then go bankrupt. The investors know that home construction is an industry ripe for disruption, but they underestimate
it is ripe for disruption. If they can get it right and they can do it profitably, there's a lot of money to be made there.
Just how expensive these facilities will be to build and operate, and overestimate how much people want to spend on what amounts to a fancy mobile home. Today, companies like Boxable are, again, raising hundreds of millions of dollars for their factory-made tiny homes. The company sold just 51 tiny homes, at below cost in 2024, but has still claimed a valuation of $3.5 billion. Now the good news is that the venture capitalists aren't really falling for this anymore. Even SoftBank has learned their lesson. The bad news is that this means these companies are now raising money from regular people using regulatory loopholes around crowdfunding. Boxable, for example, has raised more than $200 million from more than 50,000 unsophisticated investors according to their website. As with a lot of these businesses raising money from the public, they have capitalized on a tenuous connection to Elon Musk. The business gained a lot of attention based on the false reporting that Musk was living in one of their homes outside the SpaceX starbase in Texas. The channel Wall Street Millennial did a great deep dive on the other aspects of the business in a video that I can only describe as damning. One other channel called About Here also did a great report on the technical limitations of all prefabricated housing. It was focused on the Canadian market, but would apply to pretty much anywhere, so I will leave a link to both of those videos down below. The point is that the process of building homes is really hard to improve upon like we have with other manufactured goods. And that reality is now coming to head with more immediate problems in our economy. So remember when I said that we couldn't outsource home building jobs like we could with those old factory jobs? Well, in a way, we sort of do. According to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies and Pew Research, around 14% of the construction workforce in America is composed of undocumented workers. According to the reports, that share is even higher in trades like drywalling, roofing, painting, and flooring. Any system that relies on a vulnerable or desperate source of labor to skirt unions and minimum wage laws wasn't really working as intended in the first place. But no matter your politics on the recent crackdowns of undocumented workers, the simple fact of the matter is that this will put upwards pressure on construction costs, especially in a handful of particularly over-leveraged cities. In fact, this has already happened before. A study tracked construction costs between 2005 and...
That's why Texas home prices are so low. They're so close to the border. I'm just kidding. That's not true. It's not true.
In 2013, after the rollout of the Secure Communities program, which was, according to the administration at the time, a program for the arrest and removal of public safety and national security threats, those who have violated our nation's immigration laws. The study found that an arguably much less severe crackdown led to a 19% increase in construction costs over the measured period. Today, on top of that, there are the tariffs. Basic materials like copper wire could soon attract
They said if we don't crack down, they're going to raise the prices.
import duties as high as 50%, and higher interest rates, which could also impact building more than you might expect. It takes at least a few months to build a house, and during that time, developers need to own the land they are building a house on, and they usually buy that land with a loan, and those loans usually have higher interest rates than you would get on a typical 30-year mortgage. As interest rates have increased, the interest expense of just holding on to land to build a house on has also increased, and that price will eventually get passed on to you, assuming you have been skipping your avocado toast. These are called holding costs, and the longer it takes to build and sell a house, the worse they get for the nation's home builders. To make matters worse, tariffs and interest rates could combine forces to pummel new home construction together. If prices rise because of tariffs, the Fed may be forced to raise interest rates to combat inflation.
Because we get most of our lumber from Canada. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but that's where it comes from, and I'm sure that there's going to be, I mean, there is, right? We put a 25% tariff on Canada, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we did. And that's going to lead to a direct increase in the home cost. I'm pretty positive they're still made out of wood.
Which could further increase holding costs, further increasing building costs. Now, it's not clear if or how that's actually going to play out. But what is clear is that these challenges could not have happened at a worse time in certain cities. American real estate is not a monolithic single market. Conditions can be very different in different cities at different times, and right now, the trendy cities that saw a huge influx of internal migration during the COVID remote work boom are suffering the most as people move back to traditional commercial centers as they are called back into the office. According to data from Construction Coverage, an industry insurer, cities like Denver, Dallas, and El Paso now have the largest supply of housing inventory, although Florida has seen the largest increases statewide. So what we have done is built too much housing in cities.
Nobody wants to live in Florida. That's why it has the largest increase. Their insurance costs are going astronomically high. It's just, I would never personally own a home in Florida. Not that I wouldn't live there, but I couldn't own there. That would be crazy.
That people are moving out of, and now made new construction prohibitively expensive for the cities that people are moving back into. So yeah, we've been building more houses, just in the dumbest way possible, and all of this only scratches the surface. Go and watch this video next to find out all of the other dumb things we are doing in the housing market. And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
Well, hey, that was the video. Like, subscribe. I'll have a link to it in the description. Go check it out. Yeah, that was it, man. Have a good one.